So you've got that dream, right? The one where you write a book and a publisher hands you this life-changing check that lets you finally quit your day job and just write. Well, that check is called an advance. But what is it really? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most exciting and honestly, one of the most misunderstood parts of the entire publishing world. And yeah, that quote right there just nails it. We see the headlines, we hear about these massive lottery win-size deals, but the reality for most working authors, it's something completely different. There's this huge gap between what people think writers get paid and what they actually get paid. And today, we're going to close that gap. All right, here's our game plan for this little crash course. We're going to tackle the big six-figure dream versus the reality. Then we'll get into what a book advance actually is and look at some real-world numbers. After that, we'll break down how you even get the money, talk about this thing called earning out, and wrap up with a bit of a cautionary tale. Let's do it. Okay, first things first. Before we even dream about the numbers, we have to get our definitions straight. We need to cut through all the jargon and ask the most basic question. What, at its core, is a book advance? This right here is the single most important thing you need to understand. An advance is not a bonus. It's not free money. It is, like the slide says, paid against your future royalties. So think of it like this. It's a loan. It's the publisher giving you money upfront because they're making a bet. They're betting on you, and they're betting that your book is going to sell well enough to earn that money back. And this chart really lays it all out. On one side, you've got the advance. That's the guaranteed cash you get up front. On the other side, you have royalties. That's the percentage you earn from every single book that's sold. But, and this is the crucial part, you don't start getting those separate royalty checks until your book sales have earned enough money to completely pay back that initial advance. Okay, now for the part I know you've been waiting for. How much money are we actually talking about here? Let's dig into some real numbers, and you'll see they range from the stuff of dreams to, well, something a lot more modest. You know, for years, what authors got paid was this big industry secret. No one talked about it. But then in 2020, the hashtag publishing paid me completely blew the doors open. Authors started sharing their deals, pushing for transparency, and because of that, we have a way clearer picture of what's really going on. So let's start at the high end. This is the kind of deal that makes headlines. $250,000 for a first-time author. This usually only happens when you have multiple big publishers in a bidding war, all convinced they found the next huge bestseller. It's the dream for sure. Now check this out. N.K. Jemisin is, a titan in the literary world. She won the Hugo Award for Best Novel 3 years in a row for these books. An unbelievable achievement. And her advance was $25,000 for each one. This just proves that a book's future success and cultural impact have very little to do with the size of its initial advance. And here's another really powerful example. Roxane Gay is a massive literary voice today, but her debut novel started with an advance of $12,500. This is a much more common starting point for so many authors who go on to have incredible careers. And finally, this number really grounds us in reality, especially for authors working with smaller independent presses, $9,000 for a 3-book deal. It's a completely different universe from those 6-figure auctions, but it's just as real and just as much a part of the publishing landscape. So, what's the big takeaway from all these numbers? It's that there's no such thing as an average advance. It's all over the place. The publisher's size, their budget, your author platform, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, it all plays a part. And here's a really critical point. Getting a huge advance doesn't automatically mean you'll get a huge marketing push. It's just not guaranteed. Okay, so now that we have a sense of the numbers, let's get practical. Let's say you've signed the deal, you've agreed on a number. How does that money actually find its way into your bank account? Because I can tell you it's almost never one giant check. So typically, your advance is broken up into chunks, and each payment is tied to a specific milestone. You'll get the first piece when you sign the contract, the next bit comes when you deliver the finished manuscript, and the publisher accepts it. And trust me, that little acceptance clause is a big deal. The final payment usually doesn't arrive until the book is actually published, which could be a year or more down the road. Exactly. It's a step-by-step process. Each payment is a formal contractual milestone. It's a business deal that plays out over the very long journey of actually writing and creating a book.
All right, now we get to the part of the story that happens after your book is out in the world. This is the long game. This is all about earning out that advance.
This is probably one of the most common questions I get from new authors. What in the world does it actually mean to earn out? Simply put, earning out is just the break-even point. Let's make it super simple. Say your advance was $10,000 and your royalty per book is $1. Well, you need to sell 10,000 books to earn out. Every dollar from every sale up to that point is basically paying back the publisher's loan. It's only after you sell book number 10,001 that those royalty checks finally start coming directly to you. And this quote gets right to why publishers care so much about this. They have made a big financial bet. They are terrified of that bet not paying off. The absolute nightmare scenario for them is being stuck with a warehouse full of books that nobody wants. And that fear is a huge reason why advances can often be pretty conservative. So most of the time, this is all just a normal business process. But the whole system, it really relies on a promise. It relies on the contract. So what happens when that promise gets broken? Let's look at a real-world case that's, well, a pretty serious cautionary tale. That contract you sign is supposed to be ironclad. The advance is supposed to be guaranteed money. But here's the hard truth. A contract is only as strong as the company that has to honor it. So here's how this story unfolded. It started with a normal book deal, but then the publisher got bought out by a new company, Authors Place Press. This new company allegedly refused to give the author her rights back. And then in 2020, they just stopped paying royalties. Eventually, it got so bad that a group of 11 authors had to band together and file a lawsuit just to try and get the money they were owed. So what can we learn from this? Well, the authors claimed they were given really vague excuses, faced what they called opaque accounting, and then the publisher just went out of business. It's a really stark reminder that choosing your publishing partner is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. And this brings us to the big final question, the one that really ties all of this together. After everything we've talked about, is a bigger advance always better? And honestly, the answer is way more complicated than you'd think. A huge advance can put immense pressure on a book, and if a publisher starts to fear they won't earn it back, they might actually pull support. On the other hand, a smaller advance from a publisher who is truly passionate about your book, who has a long-term vision for your career, that could be invaluable. So the real takeaway isn't just about the dollar amount. It's about what that number says about the partnership you're about to start. An advance isn't just a paycheck. It's the very foundation of your book's future.